All right, we are live on the Extraordinary Sports YouTube channel and podcast here with a special guest, known as the San Diego sign guy, one of the diehard Charger fans down in San Diego, where we were both born and raised. Please welcome Joseph McCrae. Joseph, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon on the mic. How we doing? How we feeling a couple of weeks removed here from this awful decision by Dean Spanos?
Good, man. It's good to be on. It's been interesting because the when it first hit, it was pretty fresh, but now having a few weeks to sit back and look at everything, yeah, man, it still hurts. There's no denying it. I keep, everyone has the reference of it's almost like treat this as like a girlfriend that you loved has left you, and you're still remembering the good times that you had. And, now they're in LA, and if you're born and raised from San Diego, you pretty much know how San Diego sports fans feel about LA sports fans. So that's still, hitting home.
Yeah, it's a bizarre spot to be in, especially for myself, because I was born and raised in San Diego and now live in Los Angeles. So the bizarre thought that the team is closer to me yet has obviously been removed from the city in which we live. So let's go back to that first day or two. Obviously, you were in the thick of it, shouted out from Fox San Diego to all the way to ESPN. When you were there, I guess take me through the experience as a fan, and also what was the environment like that day at Chargers Park?
So, yeah, I had known about this rally. I put it out on Twitter saying, hey, I want to go to this rally. How can I get in? And then someone tweeted me or messaged me the flyer that they had sent out saying it's a private event, please RSVP. Right. So I knew like a week in advance that I was going to be going to this because I had the invite. So as I'm driving up there, I'm thinking this is going to be weird. How am I going to react? And I think the first thing that hit me is when I parked the car and I walked up to the forum, and we're all waiting. There's about like 150 LA Charger fans, just, 150 maybe, I would say, just hanging outside the forum waiting to get in. And, they start chanting LA Chargers.
Oh,
like they just start chanting it. And it was the first time in my life that I've ever heard anyone ever chant LA Chargers. Maybe I've heard it, but with 100 people chanting it and everyone's wearing jerseys, that was a very strange and odd feeling that I'll never forget. But for the most part, just waiting in line, talking to people, a person recognized me. They're like, "Hey, weren't you at the Chargers Park? And what are you doing here?" And we were just talking, and there was definitely some good LA fans out there. There's definitely some good ones. The ones that I talked to were respectful, understanding. Every time I said something, they're like, "Yep, I can't really argue with you." So I definitely have respect for those fans. But when I'm in there, when I get to the very front, and I'm just kind of blown away by it because I can't believe it's happening. I can't believe it's real. I never thought that this day would ever come. I've thought about it before then leaving, what I would do, and but I went up there, just to tell everyone, how us San Diegans feel, because it was a stab in the back. And I think that it was definitely not made up this year that they were going. It was probably made up a few years ago, and that's what makes me mad. That's what upsets me. So.
Well, and take us back to when you were at Chargers Park in San Diego. Obviously, you had the famous sign that went viral on the internet that was titled, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex Spanos would never leave SD. You failed us, Dean. When you were putting pen to board, when you were writing that, why those words, and why did you choose to obviously not just a 10, but also a 10 with a sign with obviously some profound dialogue on there?
Yeah, honestly, I think this whole, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening over the last couple of days with signs everywhere, right? Like signs are just a way to get a message out. It could be whatever message you had to say. For me, this sign was more about letting Dean know that his father would be disappointed in him, as his father would completely disapprove. I mean, I've read a book on Alex Spanos, and I've actually through Scott Kaplan, who does the radio show.
Right.
I've talked about it with him, and we both agreed that Alex Spanos loved San Diego, and the players loved Alex Spanos. The players loved the owner. You see the Atlanta Falcons owner, Arthur Blanks, celebrating with his team, dancing with his team, hanging out with his team. That's the type of charisma that Alex Spanos had that Dean never got in those genes. He just never got that goodwill, faithful owner that every fan wants and hopes they have. But we had Dean. And so for me, the sign was just a message for Dean to let him know that your father would be disappointed in you. And you could say whatever you want in these signs. You can be like, please don't go, or
right,
this is too much. Like that. For me, that's the wrong way of taking it, because you're showing emotion. You need to just get right to the point and to hit somebody in the mouth to let them see it and be like, damn, like that's a good sign. Like, wow, that hit home. Because I went to the 2015 Dolphins game, the very last game. Apparently, it was the first annual last ever game in San Diego. Yeah, and I went to that game and I saw all these signs saying, please don't leave, and crying. I felt like this is what the opposite of we needed. We needed to hit Dean in the mouth where we can, just to make him hurt. Just as long as he reads my sign, I feel good.
Well said. And we're on with SD sign guy Joseph McCrae. Follow him on Twitter at JMT619, holding it down for San Diego Charger fans. Obviously, Joseph, the sign was well received because it got national recognition. Did you ever think you'd be on an ESPN article front and center with your face and your sign and the beard, baby? Beard's looking on point.
Well, it's funny is that that's not the first time that's happened to me. Nothing Dean, question mark, NFL question mark. And that sign went viral that day. I was all over the news.
Wow.
The next day, there was a Sports Illustrated article that was written, and my sign was the very first piece. ESPN was on it. It was. So I got that recognition last year, and I was thinking, okay, last game, this upcoming year, so I did the same thing. And then I'm knowing that going to the Chargers Park, if you had a sign, you for sure, if you have something interesting to say, when you have a direct message to say, it will speak. And that's why I had to go to Chargers Park. I had to. If you're telling me that the team is going to leave here and it's done, then I need to go get my 2 cents in the Spanos, and hopefully someone will take this sign and run with it and go more digging deep into it that Dean made a terrible decision.
And I think that sign absolutely hit home. I mean, let's say Dean did see it. There's no way he didn't give some second thought to that, because, again, it wasn't your everyday words you would see with a sign like you just alluded to earlier, please don't go, please stay, what have you. Obviously, this isn't the first time we've seen an offspring of an owner take over a team, a la Jim and Jerry Buss with the Lakers, among others. What is it, do you think, that's different about an offspring taking over a team that their father or mother built versus being a part of it from the ground up? Not saying Dean wasn't, obviously, being an understudy of his dad before then, but is there something to be said about not growing the team from the city in which it was and moving it to another destination like Dean did? Is it easier, do you think? Do you think there's a different kind of psychology for, again, someone like Dean Spanos versus an Alex Spanos?
I think that's a great question. And I think for me that stands out is that Alex Spanos was the person who set up the Spanos family. Okay. He's the one who basically got the ball rolling, got them to be set up successfully. Alex Spanos was he was the architect, man. He was the guy who had the vision.
Right.
It's funny, you listen into that the LA rally, and the NFL commissioner mentioned Stan Kroenke like 5 times, saying he has the vision. Did not mention once Dean in this. Like, this is Dean's vision. No. Dean, you're in Stan's world, and this is Stan's vision, and you're just here. So for me, I look at that as Alex Spanos had that. He had the vision. He had, I mean, this guy, you know, he started selling houses. You know, this guy started off in real estate, and then he worked his way up, made a bunch of money. And for me, Dean grew into a silver spoon his whole life. You know, he never really had to work as hard as his father did. And I know, like, Dean had taken over, you know, the ownership of the Chargers, but I mean, when you look at the things that he's done, you know, he's done some good things, like the blood. I can't discredit him for it, the San Diego blood drive that's been going on in the city for over 20 years. Right. But I want to look at the things that Dean has done to show you how bad of an owner he is. You know, the things like announcing the move on through a letter, man. If you're going to be an owner, you're going to be the face of the people, the face of the franchise. You need to go out there and to be a man and to tell people right into their face, right into the camera, like, look, I'm sorry we couldn't get anything done. That would be the respectable way. So would you, Joseph, would you equate that letter to maybe getting dumped on the phone or via text as opposed to face to face? I'm trying, you know, we're talking like an ex dumped us, which, you know, we're going through together. I mean, that was to me kind of a kick to the midsection, a letter. I mean, how many times have we seen the guy talk about the organization since he's taken over? You see guys like Jerry Jones, they're all over the place, emotionally involved. He's letting his fans know he's there. He's support. There's just not a lot of sense of urgency and a will to win from Dean. And, you know, I don't see that kind of mindset lasting very long in a short-tempered, short attention span sports culture that is Los Angeles, whether you better win or we won't care about you. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing for me is that, you know, Dean does not have the charisma. You know, you can tell at the rally, you know, this guy, every person that went up didn't have a card to read on. They just, like, spoke. It's not hard to speak from the heart. You know? Right. You just go out there and you do it. Dean was the only person who had a card to read off of because he could not speak to the heart, because he knows deep down that he is a hated man and he hates the recognition that he's getting. But, you know, you made your bed. So for me, you know, I see this guy up here reading card, and when I interrupt him, I hear him stutter when I go back and read the tape, and that made me feel so good that I know he's weak. I know that he's not what his dad was. He's been fed a silver spoon his whole life. Like, for me, this is going to be an embarrassment to Dean Spanos, an embarrassment. And not only that, man, but, you know, AG and John Spanos, man. Like, you know, Dean is not from here. Dean is not from San Diego, but his kids, John and AG, they are born and raised San Diegans. And for me, hearing them all over talk radio in Los Angeles, bragging about how they're so excited to be here, I just like, man, you guys are not from San Diego anymore, because a true San Diegan would never take a sports team and go up to Los Angeles and then move to Los Angeles and now become, you know, that's just so wrong in so many ways. Absolutely. And to be the heart and soul of the city, I mean, no knock to the Padres, but the support and overwhelming support the fans gave, although the attendance doesn't always show that, the diehard Charger fans were the diehard Charger fans. They showed out year in, year out, whether it was the Kading missed field goals against the Jets, the interception with Rodney Harrison, the 14-2 season with Schottenheimer. We continue to show out. And obviously, even these last two seasons, they didn't even win 10 games combined, you know, still showing out, still supporting. And to me, being from San Diego, correct me if I'm wrong, but you go from the main organization and sports team in the city to arguably maybe even 10th or 11th of importance in Los Angeles until they prove to win. And again, what is your takeaway from, I guess, the business side of things, going from the main attraction and maybe getting a stadium in the next couple of years if they could work the politics out, to now going to being a tenant, and like you just alluded to, being part of Stan Kroenke's vision and a side chick, if you will,
of a team in LA. I'm sorry. This is a Rams town and really a Raiders town second. I've seen 3 Chargers sweatshirts here, and 2 of them are mine. It's a tough pill to swallow. But again, what do you think of the psychology and I guess the business sense of moving a team to becoming the main attraction, to becoming a tenant of another team's stadium?
Yeah, I think it's insane. I mean, I'm not, I'm looking at this as an aspect of a fan, right? Of seeing of a sports fan, right? Now it makes sense for the St. Louis Rams to move back to Los Angeles because they spent 50 years there and their attendance was super low, and that made sense. The aspect that people weren't going up because that's a Cardinals town. St. Louis. That's the St. Louis Cardinals. They're not the St. Louis Rams. But for me, you mentioned the attendance, and I just want to say one thing to all the people that had knocked the attendance.
Please.
Well, first off, okay, so in my opinion, A.J. Smith was one of the greatest and worst things that ever happened to the Chargers, right? A.J. Smith was the one who fired Marty after going 14-12. He was the one who cut LT, our best player in franchise history, cut him. This guy made a lot of moves that rub people the wrong way. Like, people love Marty. It's like, how do you fire a coach that's 14-2? It's unheard of. So people love Marty. People love LT. When you see someone treating someone like that, guess what? Fans are not going to show. And I know at least like 10 Charger fans who said that they will not go to a game as long as A.J. Smith was the general manager.
Right.
Now, of course, A.J. Smith was fired, and we brought in Tom Slutzko. He's been doing great. I mean, he's been doing okay, but for the most part, there were fans that were loyal saying that, hey, we're not going to go to games because the way they treated Marty and LT, that we're not about that. And I actually respect that, because that's saying that you are standing for something that should have never been done. You should never fire Marty, and you should have never released LT. You should have let LT be in charge of the rest of his life, and that's it, because he has earned that. So for me, low attendance started with A.J. Smith, and then it also started with Dean Spanos. I mean, how are you going to sit there and apply to move to Los Angeles with the Raiders in Carson? You announce it, it comes up in the middle, of the off season, and we're hearing like 2015 is it could be the last years ever. And then what do? They apply. They apply to go to Los Angeles. They get rejected. They come back, and what happens when they come back? They try to get a stadium. They try to do Prop C. All I'm saying for Dean is that if Dean really wanted to stay in San Diego, he would have never tried to leave for Carson. He should have put Prop C on a ballot before trying to relocate anywhere if he really wanted to stay. Let's say Prop C comes out in 2014.
Right.
Will the attendance still be low? Would we still have all these people not wanting to go to stadiums? But now you have him announcing to go to Los Angeles with the Raiders and Carson.
Right.
That rubs people the wrong way. So fans did not come up because of Dean too. His decision to relocate to Los Angeles with the Raiders and Carson, that rubs fans the wrong way. It was the worst possible thing he could have done. And he lost fans. People did not go because of that decision. So for me, when you talk about the attendance, that's all on Dean. Seriously, it is. It's all on Dean. The man tried to leave our city and then come back with a bogus Prop C that is going to fail. That aspect of it is a reason for low attendance. And I just hate that we get that bad rep. Like you said, man, you've been going to games forever. I've been going to games forever. I've gone to the games. I went to the very last 2 games years in a row when we were last place. I went to those games, but the attendance, man, a lot of it was on Dean.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. There's a lot of factors when attendance comes in, and again, we've lived in the city. There are some absolutely diehard football fans that are by no means fair weather in what obviously the city of San Diego kind of gets looked at as a fair weather city because we got the beach and the best weather in the country. Yes, and, yes. The nickname America's finest city, there's a few other things to do. Now, obviously, Joseph, I believe every team, starting with the Baltimore Colts, have gotten a NFL franchise back to their city once they lost it. Right. I'm sure you've thrown in the towel of thinking the Chargers are going to come back, but what are your hopes in the next maybe 5 to 10 years? Do you see Goodell and his committee lobbying for an NFL franchise to come here, or even maybe the likes of a Jacksonville working their way out west?
You know, I think that's a really good question, because for me, when you look at it, you had read all the reports that saying that the NFL was really upset about the decision of Dean to Los Angeles, that the NFL was really mad about it, right? So you read all that, right? So people have already known that the NFL and a lot of people in Los Angeles and in San Diego, no one really agrees with your move. So what I'm really hoping for, now this sucks to say, because, you know, I root for Phillip Rivers, I root for Gates. I have invested basically every Sunday from September through January of my life to watch these guys play. So it's going to be hard for them, you know, upcoming the season, but I hope they do bad, man. And when I say that is because I want them to be 4-12. I want them to be 5-11. I want them to be 6-10, so that fans don't go to those games at StubHub Center. Basically, the more empty seats in StubHub Center is a win for us.
Is there a chance that they don't sell out a 27,000 person stadium? Is there a chance, in your humble opinion? Let's say they start out 1-4, 2-6. Do you think they will not sell out?
That's exactly what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for they start off terrible like they usually do. You know, like we're so off for the past 8 years. We've been so on and off in September, and so I think that if you go into a new place, you need to be exciting, right? Now, they're in a division that's really tough, and I don't think they're going to do anything crazy next year. I really think they're going to have an average season. The AFC West is just too loaded, up and down.
Oh yeah, loaded.
You can talk about any team. Chargers have talent, but other teams have more talent. And for me, like I said, I hope they start off bad, and I hope people don't go to their games, because if they don't go to the games and they can't sell out a $30,000 or $30,000 in StubHub Center, that shows you to the NFL, that shows you to the people that people don't care. And the NFL has already come out and said, we regret you doing this. Now, could the NFL's owners come together? Because look, Dean owns the team, right? But there is a role where all the NFL owners and the commissioner, they could all force Dean out. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but when you move to Los Angeles and you don't perform well and people don't go to your games and you don't sell out a $30,000 seat stadium for an NFL team that's used to be playing in front of 58,000, 59,000 people, that's embarrassing. That's not a good look for the NFL, and it's not a good look for Dean. And that might come to a point where, if the NFL is really thinking about it, they're having trouble selling out games in a 30,000 seat stadium. Just wait till when they move to Inglewood, which is 80,000. So, might have this little theory where this is like a 2-year audition for Los Angeles. Can the Chargers win, and can they sell out these games? Because if they can't sell out these games, then why should they be granted the greatest stadium ever built by Stan Kroenke? Why should they have that privilege? They're not going to sell out games. We already both know this, that in Inglewood, they're not going to sell out games. But the whole goal for this year is for them to not sell out games and for fans not to show up. And when fans don't show up and they have an empty stadium that only holds 30,000, it's going to be the biggest laughingstock of the NFL. And maybe the NFL does something. Who knows?
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Joseph McCrae, the SD sign guy. Again, follow him on Twitter at JMT619. Joseph, are you going to be taking those signs to the StubHub Center at all? Are you showing any support to this team? I know, obviously, we heard that you want them to do poorly. But again, any emotional investment moving forward, at least in the short term here for you?
I mean, I have friends in Los Angeles. I go to LA a good amount. I love that. I've grown to love Los Angeles as a city before I did, years and years ago. But I will be going to games up there. Now, I'm not going to be wearing any type of Charger colors, right? I'm basically going in there neutral, right? And I'm going to wear a San Diego, I'm going to wear an SD hat. No signs of rooting for the team. no charter colors. I'll wear all black if I have to. And then I'm going to be there with more signs, taking shots at Dean and taking shots
Let's
at the
go,
NFL.
baby.
What's that?
I said, let's go.
Right? Like, you know, this is a chance for us to, I mean, you look at those crowds, you know, it's happening. You can protest. Protests are the most political ways to get your message heard.
Okay, so wait,
And
let's say it's a
every way.
horrible, let's say, Joseph, it's a horrendous audition. Everything goes the worst possible way it could. The league and the owners want them back to San Diego. If that's the case, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we hope for. I mean, that's all we can.
So you would take them back because if an ex-girlfriend burned me like that, I'm not taking them back. No sense of the word, my friend. But given there's other politics and things in play, would you take them back?
I love my city. I'm born and raised here, and I'm one of those fans that gets really annoyed when other East Coast, Midwest people think that there's not diehard San Diego fans. So I will always support whatever's in front of me. Whatever it's playing that represents the city of San Diego, I will root for them. Now, if they did come back, and let's say two scenarios, right? Let's say the first one, the NFL decides that they move back to San Diego, and Dean has to rework with the city. Now, wow, I can't even imagine that, because that would be. I mean, it's not. You're saying it's not far fetched, right? It could happen. There's a possibility of it where they fail so bad in Los Angeles. Guess what? You don't have the right to move to that beautiful stadium. Go back to San Diego. I would just love to see the reaction that he would get, because he would get booed. And you know what? I don't think he could move back down here. I believe that he's all in with Los Angeles. So I feel like if they did move him back, he would have to sell the team. There is no way that this man, the way he treated City Hall, and by the way, how about that the mayor's press conference of the State of the Union or the State of the City on that same day the Chargers announced that they're moving to Los Angeles. You don't think that had something to do with something?
Oh, yeah.
That had every right of the Chargers taking a shot at the city, saying, this is your special day for the city? Well, guess what? We're moving to Los Angeles. So he had burned so many bridges with the city. I mean, you look at every politician in San Diego, they think that Dean's a joke. So, I mean, if they come back, of course, I would root for them, of course. But I highly doubt that Dean Spanos would be the owner of the team.
Well, I guess only time will tell. But again, I appreciate you hopping on with me, Joseph, the time, the passion, and for holding it down for not just yourself, but all San Diego Charger fans, San Diego residents, and anyone that felt as disrespected as you and I did with how Dean decided to exit. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. It's always a pleasure. I love talking to anyone that is a diehard San Diego fan. And hey, man, if you want to come with these games, you know Sean, he's down to come.
Oh, you know it.
And we'll make signs. We won't wear any charter colors to give the indication that Dean has fans in Los Angeles. Neutral colors, signs taking shots at Dean, John, AZ, the Spanos, the NFL. Let's go, man.
There it is, baby. Well, shout out to Sean Shaw for bringing us together. Appreciate that talented man as well. And again, Joseph McCrae, the SD sign guy at JMT619 on Twitter. Follow him. Keep up to date on where else he's going viral in SoCal. Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks, man.
All right, dude.